The recent Karlie Redd and Rasheeda incident has gone viral on the internet. It is astounding that we are even discussing this. They are well known to you as hip-hop and love symbols. But things have recently taken an unforeseen turn, and the rumors that are currently going around are rather nasty. Imagine that the gym suddenly becomes a real war while you are only trying to complete your daily routine in an effort to stay in shape and mind your own business. Numerous accounts assert that a single word turned an ordinary workout into a full-fledged violent confrontation. Rumor has it that after hearing the B word, Karlie Redd lost her temper, and that Rasheeda may have pushed her too far. Even though we have witnessed their previous disagreements and the tension developing over the seasons, the fan community has been completely shocked by this level of hostility. Security had to intervene before things grew worse. According to reports, that equipment was flying. Everyone wants to know if their friendship has officially ended or if this altercation in the gym was just a predictable boiling point. Every detail and whisper that comes out of the camp is being investigated. You will be amazed by what we are learning about the conversation that took place prior to the first swing. Watch out. This conversation is unlike any other. It's a moment that might permanently alter the dynamics of the entire show, so we're breaking it down for you now. This drama is getting darker by the minute, so you don't want to miss a second of it. The first warning sign of the day was when Karlie Redd and Rasheeda showed up at the gym at precisely the same time. The already tense environment that could be cut with a knife is exacerbated by the fact that these two usually avoid each other at all costs, especially when the cameras aren't recording. But today was special, since they both ended up at the same upscale Atlanta fitness facility where the best people work out. Karlie warmed up in her opulent outfit, looking more ready for a photo shoot than a workout. And it began with quiet murmurs and casual looks close to the treadmill. Rasheeda, on the other hand, was in the zone and focused, tempted to ignore her longtime opponent. However, everyone is aware that it is nearly hard to ignore Karlie Redd when she demands attention. As the minutes passed, observers saw that the atmosphere in the room shifted from productive to toxic every time Rasheeda switched to a different machine. Karlie was furiously berating her trainer a few feet away for being loyal and having fake friends. Everyone knows that Rasheeda enjoys being in charge and avoids conflict until it is absolutely necessary. So it appeared to be an intentional attempt to irritate her. When Karlie began discussing recent business transactions and how some people are losing their touch in the field while others are just getting started, the whispers erupted into loud insults. When Karlie eventually ended her squat practice, Rasheeda gave her a furious look. At first, she remained silent, which seemed to give Karlie even more self-assurance. The trainer suggested that they go to the private weight area in an attempt to defuse the issue. But the damage had already been done and the fuse had already been lit. According to reports, Karlie laughed and said that some people need their own rooms since they can't stand the heat in public anymore. When Rasheeda approached Karlie and asked her to keep her name out of her mouth if she wanted to do her workout in peace, the silence broke and the verbal altercation started. Both ladies brought up personal slights that had been seething under the surface for months, as well as old scars from previous seasons. During the heated back and forth, years of hostility and the power struggle that has always characterized their relationship cast a shadow on the gym. Neither of the two moguls was prepared to surrender or leave first. Viewers described the atmosphere as exhilarating as Rasheeda stood her ground like a stone wall and refused to allow Karlie to intimidate her in an environment where she felt at ease. Karlie was making wild gestures with her hands. When personal, business, and family failures were brought up, the remarks became more intimate. The deadly word entered the discourse just as the gym manager was about to step in front of everyone. Rasheeda scornfully glanced at Karlie Redd and called her a nasty B word, because everyone knows it's the one thing you don't call if you want to avoid a scene. The entire gym fell silent for a time as the weight of that term hung in the air. In a couple of seconds, Karlie's demeanor changed from arrogant to furious, and it was evident to all onlookers that a boundary had been crossed that would never be crossed again. Karlie dropped her water bottle and leaped forward without thinking. The security officers on standby were also surprised. Everyone at the far end of the building stopped what they were doing and hurried toward the sound of the original crash because it was so strong. More perilous than a typical street brawl was the scene of complete chaos that ensued from the two women colliding close to the hefty dumbbell rack. Rasheeda made an effort to defend herself, but Karlie had the advantage during the initial frantic moments because the attack was unexpected. As other members tried to back off, they got into a fight that resembled something from a high-stakes action film. Gym towels and water bottles were flying everywhere, and the genuine emotion on their faces said it all. Even though you could hear the screaming and shouting of names as others tried to figure out if this was real or just some brilliant farce. There was a complete collapse of professionalism and an outburst of pent-up rage that had been building since they first met. The women's strength was driven by years of animosity. As a result, it was challenging for the security personnel to gradually assume control of the situation. Karlie attempted a final kick as they were being torn apart, but Rasheeda sobbed back that she had finally lost her mind and would regret touching her. At least a dozen iPhones were recording the event, and within minutes, the first video appeared on social media, sparking a flurry of comments and theories. Some fans took sides in the argument about who was right and wrong in the comment sections, identifying both celebrities' acquaintances in the posts, while others defended Rasheeda, claiming that Karlie is always the aggressor and went too far this time. Some said she shouldn't have said that word if she wasn't prepared for the smoke. As the number of interested spectators and photographers outside to try to catch a glimpse of the aftermath grew, the gym's management was forced to close the doors and ask for additional backup. The shouting was audible through the walls, even though the two ladies were being detained in different parts of the building to stop more violence. For Atlanta's social scene, it was a miserable day that will probably be discussed for the remainder of the year. Sponsors and partners are already beginning to worry about how the fight may impact their reputation at work. Beyond the notoriety and wealth, however, there is a severe personal injury that currently appears to be nearly irreversible. Everyone concerned began to realize the truth of what had just occurred when the police arrived to collect statements and evaluate the situation. This was a true outburst of anger between two people who had once been close, not a scene from a TV show. Eventually, both women, seeming distressed and disheveled, were led out of the building by the rear exit to avoid the cameras that were waiting. However, the specifics of their injuries were not immediately apparent. A far bigger drama involving legal threats and a complete separation with their social group begins with the aftermath of the incident at the gym. Since everyone is compelled to take a side in this conflict, there are already reports that one of them may be leaving the program permanently, since the environment has gotten too poisonous to permit any kind of harmony. For now, though, everyone is merely keeping an eye on who will contact the media and how they will attempt to defend their acts in the public opinion court. With each new story that comes out of the Atlanta area, the complex problem simply gets more difficult. The city seems to be holding its breath to see what will happen next in this tale of duplicity and bloodshed, and tension is at an all-time high. The degree of animosity shown here astounds even the most seasoned gossip columnists. And it appears that the harm caused by those brief moments of insanity in the gym cannot be undone. The rumors became more odd as the sun started to drop over the city, with some claiming that a third party had orchestrated everything. The chatter only became louder. Whether that is true or not, the fact that two of the biggest stars in reality TV have permanently altered the gay guy will not help Yandy or the other crew members who are now caught in the middle of this catastrophe. We are only beginning to realize the full scope of this rabbit hole, and there will be dire consequences. There is a long way down this rabbit hole. The speed at which the news spread was unanticipated. The entire street was crowded with spectators and reporters attempting to get a statement as staff members attempted to retrieve the broken glass from a display case that had been knocked over during the altercation, making the scene outside the gym almost as chaotic as the violence that had taken place inside. The locker room area was filled with the lingering scent of costly perfume and adrenaline, while her secretary rushed back and forth on the phone, perhaps notifying her husband, Kirk, or her legal team what had transpired. Rasheeda slumped on a seat with her head in her hands, attempting to catch her breath. Her training clothes were ripped, and her hair was disheveled. What really drew my attention in all the years they had known one another was the look of utter disbelief on her face. She had never seen Karlie become so irrationally angry. On the opposite side of the building, two massive security officers were restraining Karlie Redd. The guard claimed that she repeatedly yelled that she was tired of being treated disrespectfully and that she would not put up with anyone calling her out of her name without facing consequences. Her eyes were wide with a mixture of anger and regret, and she was breathing heavily. But even as the police began to question her about what had happened, she refused to back down. after years of being the object of taunts and insults from the other group members. She reportedly stated that she was the one who had been verbally assaulted first, and that she was merely defending her dignity. Depending on who you spoke to within the building, the witnesses' reports of the initial punch being thrown varied greatly. While some witnesses claimed that Rasheeda's remarks served as the catalyst and that everyone would have reacted similarly while the cops were occupied taking notes, others claimed that Karlie had been preparing the ambush from the moment she entered. Tension persisted as they moved between the two rooms because the officers were concerned that if the two women ran into each other again as they were leaving, another altercation would start in the parking lot. A producer who had just arrived was yelled at by the gym's administration, who said that the facility's reputation had been damaged and that they would be suing for the equipment. Members who fled during the altercation sustained injuries and lost wages. As more people became involved, the whole mess of personal grudges and legal threats got worse. The news was disseminated to the Boss Shop employees via social media, and since everyone is aware of how much Rasheeda invests in her business and reputation, the mood was depressing. Nobody anticipated that a fight at the gym would ruin things. It appears that she was getting calls from her close friends. Her phone shattered during the altercation and was not working, which made her feel even more alone. On the other side of town, Karlie's camp was already preparing a press release in an attempt to get ahead of the story, because they knew it would be difficult to justify the degree of hostility seen when the film was released. There were allegations that Karlie had even engaged a private investigator to investigate Rasheeda's recent financial transactions in an effort to obtain some leverage. In the event that this matter went to court, the drama had turned into a strategic conflict in which both sides were searching for information and getting ready for a protracted public struggle. It was no longer about a workout or a single insult. Fans were more divided than they had previously been. Some created hashtags in support of Karlie's right to self-defense, while others demanded that she be permanently kicked out of the program due to her violent actions. According to reports, the production company was conducting urgent meetings to discuss how to handle the situation since they were torn between wanting to preserve their celebrity and enjoying the high ratings that drama provides. There were speculations that if Karlie didn't take anger management training or apologize to Rasheeda, some other cast members wouldn't record any scenes with her. But given Karlie's past, an apology didn't seem possible at this time because these women's public acts directly impact their families and businesses, and the consequences were beginning to negatively impact their bottom lines. The emotional stakes were higher than they had ever been. Rasheeda's situation grew much more problematic when a big apparel firm that was negotiating with her allegedly placed the contract on hold until the investigation was finished. She believed that she was being punished since she had been attacked, but because of the problem, the criminal gained more sympathy and attention. The police notified both sides that charges may be brought based on the medical reports and the final analysis of the gym's internal surveillance tape, which had captured the entire incident from many perspectives. After completing their preliminary review, media sites were paying 5 figures to anyone who could obtain a copy of the tape, making it the most sought-after piece of content in the world at the time. The team was eventually given permission to begin the extensive cleaning of the gym, but by the time the yellow line drove the last spectators away, the atmosphere had completely transformed and it was obvious that neither woman would ever be accepted again. A thick, unsettling hush eventually descended upon the structure. Everyone stopped to reflect. But the quiet was short-lived, because Rasheeda walked with her head held high, despite her wounds and the obvious trembling of her hands. And the paparazzi's flashing lights and yelling returned as soon as the back doors opened and they were led to their individual cars. Karlie was spotted hurrying inside a black SUV while covering her face with a jacket. The stark differences between the two women revealed a lot about how they were coping with the fallout from the darkest day in their friendship. Every few minutes, people sheltering in the locker rooms or the cardio area uploaded fresh accounts of the brawl, escalating the social media frenzy as the cars pulled away and vanished into the Atlanta traffic. As a friendship broke down, the entire globe watched in real time. As the evening wore on, comments became increasingly hostile as people showed earlier footage and interviews to illustrate how long this dispute had been brewing. Everyone seemed to have an opinion about who was the true villain and who was the hero. But the truth was probably somewhere in the middle, where the spotlight had lately caused 2 injured people to reach their breaking point. For the legal teams and publicists who would be working non-stop to protect their clients' reputations, the evening was only getting started. For the fans, though, it was the most thrilling development of the series in years. What this meant for the next season, and if the two could ever be in the same room again without it becoming a crime scene, were just two of the many unanswered questions. One instant of losing control has radically changed the show's setting. It was difficult to go back to how things were before the workout, as the complete story started to gradually come to light through a variety of sources and insiders who were eager to share what they knew. It was obvious that the days ahead would be full of further disclosures and drama, as the ramifications of the gym brawl quickly spread to the average spectator, who simply wanted to know whether everyone was okay. The intricate web of lies, facts, and half-truths only served to further confuse the situation. However, okay is a relative term on reality TV. The only thing that was definite was that the conflict between Karlie Redd and Rasheeda had now moved into a risky new phase for which no one was really ready. Within 48 hours, every discussion on social media and entertainment blogs was dominated by the impact of that one moment in the gym. Thousands of people debated the incident's morality and carefully examined every second of the published video as the battle's hashtag became viral across the country. The lack of contact from the inner circle only fanned conspiracy ideas, adding to the tension as everyone waited for an official announcement. According to some sources, the fight was so serious that it broke their contracts and might result in legal action that would forbid them from ever speaking to each other on camera. On the other hand, others said that producers were frantically attempting to use the footage to create a plot that would save their upcoming season. Tension existed behind the scenes since a number of cast members were involved in a disagreement that they had not requested. Some friends reportedly refused to film with anyone who supported the opposing side, creating a gap that threatened to split the entire cast. The most tragic aspect of the narrative was how it affected each of their families. In the midst of all of this, there were several online concerns about spouses and children being exposed to this degree of poison, and the strain of public scrutiny started to wear them down. It was no longer just a fight. It affected the reputations of families who had invested years in creating a brand, only to have it possibly fall apart in a matter of seconds. From long-standing personal grudges to covert corporate betrayals that had finally reached a breaking point, each story that came to light was more inflated than the last. It seemed tempting to confront the rumors. Many rumors circulated. According to reports, the homes of individuals involved had a gloomy and defensive attitude. According to people familiar with the incident, there were several meetings with publicists and legal counsel in an effort to manage the narrative before it got out of control. The idea that this was a planned altercation that had been simmering for weeks, rather than merely an act of hostility, was the most devastating aspect of the rumors. Whether that was accurate or not, public opinion had already changed, and many spectators had already recognized the drama's opponent. Thus, it didn't matter what the truth was. The most burdensome aspect for everyone involved was the uncertainty of the future, because no one could predict whether their professional relationships would last or whether their careers on the show would end. Fans generally agreed that the gym brawl was a pivotal moment that permanently changed the show.